we got two great guests in studio for the Sheriff's Sit Down, presented by our Community Credit Union. Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Mason County Commissioner Kevin Shutty. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Nice to see you both here as we are talking about something that folks will be deciding on upcoming here. Tell us a little bit more. Sheriff, start us off, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details with Commissioner Shutty here.
Actually, I think we should probably have the commissioner start us off.
I said putting it off on him this morning.
Exactly.
Must be a financial deal.
Well, exactly. But the problem is it happens all the time, and it's very common. And people associate that the sheriff runs the jail or the facilities. And actually, if you look at the RCWs, county facilities are under the authority of the county commission. So when people constantly ask me about funding issues and things like that, and what am I doing, it's actually a county issue and an issue for the county commission. And so I think I'd turn it over to Commissioner Shutty, and he can explain to you what the county's doing. I can talk a little bit about why I've changed in my support over this over the last couple of years.
Well, first off, great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk about some of the things that we're working on as a commission and collaboratively amongst kind of the criminal justice leaders in the community. And we have two things that are happening kind of simultaneously over the next couple of months. One, that voters will have a chance to weigh in the primary election this August is going to be on a 0.3% public safety sales tax. Folks may be familiar with that because the city of Shelton currently has a 0.1% public safety sales tax, and so this would be in kind of collaboration and conjunction with what's already on the books in Shelton, and so it would give us an opportunity to fund some critical criminal justice programs that we currently have a need for in the county right now. And county side of it, we think we would generate about $1.3 million a year. And as chair of the county's criminal justice working team, we've been having a lot of discussions about jail and court issues in particular, and this would go predominantly to fund some expansion of services and abilities within the jail system and court system. And so the bulk of the money is going to go towards that. But the entirety of the 0.3% would be for criminal justice purposes. And so that's a little bit of that's a bit of a shift maybe from previous ballot proposals that have been out in front of the community before, where there was a little bit more of a hue towards general government funding. This is exclusively for public safety, and we're confident after working with folks from the sheriff's office, including the sheriff, and some folks from the courts, as well as the city of Shelton, that we have a proposal here that's going to help us in the short term, which leads me kind of to the second issue that we've been working on pretty hard over the past several months, which is trying to figure out if we're going to build a new jail, and if we do, where.
Sure.
And so we just, tomorrow the commission will be voting on a contract with KMB Architects out of Olympia to evaluate either doing a standalone facility here in the county, bigger and newer than what we're used to right now, but a standalone Mason County only facility, or doing a joint regional facility with Grays Harbor County. So we're excited about the partnership possibilities there. Certainly some pros and cons to go in that direction, and some questions that would need to work out with Grays Harbor, but we're excited about evaluating that and seeing the role that it could play in the community.
We've seen and talked about this over the years now, and the need for the new jail or a new updated facility with increased space for inmates and things like that. So these are good conversations that seem to be coming along in the last couple of years. Now, this is the kind of, as you mentioned, Commissioner, the second iteration of this type of a tax, and last time it came about, Sheriff, you were not for that.
No, I wouldn't support it.
Tell me about this one.
And the difference was, and the commissioner touched on it, we've got a change in the commission. Commissioner Shutty has always supported the designated funding, but the last commission decided to pull the areas that it was dedicated to and just say, let's vote for this and we'll see where we spend it. And that, I wasn't going to do that. It was for criminal justice. It should be going to, if the people know what it's going for, I think the people can support it. I wouldn't support it when it was just going to be a hodgepodge. The commissioners narrowed that down, focused it into areas exactly where it's going to go. You know, I can support that, and I think it's a good thing. The other piece behind it is working on this jail issue. For us, what we hear constantly is about the crime rate.
Yeah.
Well, Sheriff, what are you doing about the crime rate? What are you doing there? We're doing our job. I'm telling you right now, our folks are doing their job. 309 arrests this month. Again, we've been averaging about 250. 309 arrests this month that we were not able to put in jail because there's no space. The commissioners worked with the other county commissions. We sat down and talked with them about which would be the best plan, 2 separate jails or 1 regional. The organization that has been chosen has done the presentations on that. They do a really good job. I mean, they went around, they've covered all the areas that I was concerned about going into this. I worked for another organization before, and the jail wasn't supported. They built it and sat for 7 years with nobody in it because it wasn't well thought out. This plan, they've covered all those bases, and I'm comfortable with that. I couldn't go out and support something that I wasn't comfortable with, and I'm real pleased that Commissioner Shutty got on board and started spearheading this project to move us ahead. If you want, people are concerned about the crime rates. We're making the arrest, but there's nowhere to put anybody.
Yeah.
And that's really hurting our community. And so looking at this as these projects, I'm really hoping that we move forward in that direction to make it for a safer county.
I see all the arguments for building another facility. What exactly, I'm trying to put myself in the minds of the opposition, what are the arguments against getting the crime rate down and incarcerating people who are endangering our families and children? I don't understand. I mean, they find monies for all sorts of other things. What exactly is the argument on the other side of, like, just letting it stay the way it is, where we can't lock people up when they commit crimes?
I think, well, I think a lot of it is some of it's out of sight, out of mind. People don't always. You've walked through our jail. I should say you've been in our jail. You've walked through our jail, and people don't think about that. 24 hours a day that thing's operating, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's expensive, and think if your house had people in it 24 hours a day. I mean, always in your house, running the heat and all the equipment in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and they weren't there to take care of it either. That the people staying there, what your house would look like, and the size of your house. As your family increases, you need more space, and those areas, the number of washing machines we have, the number of places we have to make food and things, those have never increased, even though the jail capacity, they've doubled it. It's just an out of sight and out of mind issue. But all of a sudden, when it's your house that's broken into, your neighborhood that's being disrupted, and we show up and make contact with somebody and basically release them on the spot and refer the case to the prosecutor's office. People are starting to become agitated, and they want to know why. This isn't a law enforcement issue. This is a community issue. Like I say, we're making the arrests, we're making the cases, but there's no place to put anybody. And if you want to have nice parks and nice schools and all those other things, they're great to have, but why have nice things in your community if they're just going to get torn apart by people who don't care?
Kevin, let me ask you about the fact that as we started this conversation, the county commissioners are the ones who have kind of their purview over the jail. A lot of folks would find that hard to understand, I guess, because you're thinking law enforcement and the sheriff's in the jail, and you take people to the jail sheriff, but it's under the county commissioner's purview. Is that just for jails, or is that kind of an overall, you guys look at and house and hold different buildings and things like that? Is that how that works?
It kind of, maybe the easiest comparison for your listeners would be kind of a landlord-tenant relationship.
Okay.
So we, as commissioners, and this is the same across the state, we're in charge of maintaining and upgrading the facilities and kind of maintaining those capital facilities throughout the county. And the jail is one of those that we have the responsibility to maintain the building on. We don't have much to do at all with the operations of the jail. That's where you see the sheriff's office come into play there. And much like with Superior Court or District Court, we take care of the building for them, and they run the court.
Okay.
And so that really, I think, speaks to how critical it is for this to be a collaborative project, an approach that we need in the county. If we're going to go and build a new building, we need to make sure that we're going to build a building that works for the people that are going to be using it every day. And I think back to Spencer's kind of question a couple of minutes ago, I think one of the questions that often comes up in this discussion is, how heavy are you going to be on incarceration versus rehabilitation? And the sheriff has been, I think, very open and really a kind of a leader for us in the community in terms of looking at alternatives, different ways to hold people accountable, but gets them back on the right path. That's something that this commission is very interested and open to as well. And so we're going to be looking for opportunities to improve programming and And that's part of the 310's proposal that's going to be in front of the community, looking at reentry services, looking at mental health and peer services for folks that are in the jail. I would venture to say most, if not all, folks come into the jail with some substance abuse or behavioral health issues, and so being aware of that and understanding, what role that plays in, reducing recidivism. We want people to come through and be held accountable, but we're not convinced that the best use of the money is to have them to continue coming through the jail. We want to see them get better and be contributors to our community, and so I think we have a good partner in the sheriff's office to work on programs like that, in particular as we continue to try to capture some federal money for our opioid prevention and outreach programs through public health. So I think that's one of the things that I hear a lot is, how focused are you on locking people up and throwing away the key? And from my perspective, and the sheriff can talk a little bit about this too, it's not always about that. You want to be able to hold people accountable, but you want to give them an opportunity to kind of mend their ways.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have to move into the next hour here with the news going on right now. If you're just joining us on KMAS Shelton, we have ABC News happening, but we're this good conversation right now. This 0.3% proposal is going to be on the primary ballot, so another opportunity for Mason County voters to vote in the primaries and see that on their ballots, and that is in August, you said?
Yeah, it'll be the August election, and then just one note for your listeners too, tomorrow evening the county commission's having a joint meeting with the city council, and there'll be an informational presentation on this as well tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at the Civic Center.
Okay, very good.
We sure appreciate all the previous sheriffs I've talked to about this. I'm looking at an article from 1990 that states the jail was overcrowded in 1990. We've got over 20,000 more people in our community now than then. Certainly appreciate the commissioner coming in and taking a leadership role on this. It's been great moving forward.
Mason County Commissioner Kevin Shutty and Sheriff Casey Salisbury here for the Sheriff's Sit Down, presented by our Community Credit Union. Thanks for coming in, guys, and we'll talk more about this as we move through and towards August.